You did everything right this week. You ate clean, you hit your steps, you slept 7 hours, you even skipped that second coffee. And then, out of nowhere, your throat gets scratchy on Tuesday. Your energy crashes by Thursday, and by Friday, you're calling in sick, staring at the ceiling, running through every supplement you spend good money on, and wondering why none of it is working. Sound familiar? Most people in that moment reach for more, another vitamin, a higher dose, a new brand. They treat the immune system like a machine that just needs more fuel. But that framing is wrong, and it's costing them their health. Here's what nobody tells you. The problem isn't your diet, it's not your sleep, and it is definitely not bad luck. The problem is happening inside your bloodstream right now, and it starts every single morning the moment you wake up and take your first unconscious breath. A breath that, if you are like most adults living in a modern environment, is doing almost the opposite of what your immune system actually needs. I want you to stay with me for the next few minutes because I'm about to show you something that is going to change the way you think about your own body forever. There is a question I get asked more than any other in my practice, and it is this. Why do some people seem to shrug off every cold that comes around, while others, doing all the right things, spending real money on their health, get knocked flat every few weeks? The answer is not in a pill bottle. It is not in a supplement stack. It is not in any expensive protocol from a wellness influencer. And it is sitting in your chest right now, completely available to you, completely free, and almost certainly being wasted every single day. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to do about it. You're going to understand the specific mechanism behind why it works, and you're going to be able to start in the next 4 minutes with nothing but the breath that's already in your lungs. This is the most important health video you will watch this year, and I say that not to hype it, but because the science behind what I'm about to share with you is that significant and that underused. Let's get into it. Why this problem matters more than you think. Let's start at the beginning, because I think most people have been sold a fundamentally broken model of what the immune system is and how it works, and until you understand the correct model, no amount of supplements or sleep or clean eating is going to get you where you want to be. Most people treat immunity like it's a light switch. Either you're sick or you're not. Either your immune system is working or it isn't. You catch a cold, you rest, you recover, and you go back to normal. That's the model most of us grew up with. But that's not how it works at all. Your immune system is not a light switch. It is more like a river, and the key word there is current. Your immune system has a constant, flowing, dynamic response to the world around you. Every moment of every day, it is sampling the environment, identifying threats, tagging pathogens, coordinating responses, clearing debris, and resetting for the next challenge. It never fully rests. It never fully switches off. It is always in motion. When that current is strong, when the flow is clear and fast and well-resourced, pathogens hit it and get swept away. You're exposed to a virus at a dinner party, and 3 days later you feel nothing because your immune river handled it before it ever got a foothold. When that current is sluggish, when the flow is compromised, slow, and poorly coordinated, things build up. Things settle. Pathogens get time to replicate before your defenses arrive, and that's when you get hit. That's when the scratchy throat becomes a full infection. That's when the bug that everyone else shrugged off puts you in bed for a week. Now, here's the critical question. What controls the current? What sets the speed and strength of your immune river? The answer is not primarily your diet. Diet matters, but it's downstream. It's not primarily sleep, though sleep is essential for immune memory consolidation. And it is almost certainly not the 17 supplements currently sitting in your kitchen cabinet. One of the primary moment-to-moment regulators of your immune current, the thing that is governing the speed and efficiency of your immune response right now as you watch this, is your breath, and more specifically, the ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide in your blood plasma, which changes with every single inhale and exhale you take. Research from Stanford's neuroscience labs identified a specific breathing pattern, one they called the physiological sigh,
sigh as the fastest known method for reducing blood CO2 accumulation, regulating the sympathetic nervous system, and triggering a measurable shift in immune-related cytokine activity. Cytokines are the signaling proteins your white blood cells use to communicate. They are the generals of your immune army. They decide where to send reinforcements, when to launch an attack, when to stand down, and when to start the repair process. And your breath, the rhythm and depth of every inhale and exhale, is giving them their orders every minute of every day, whether you realize it or not. But here is where the story gets harder to hear. Most people are giving their immune generals the worst possible orders constantly without knowing it. The average adult in a modern, sedentary environment takes 15 to 20 breaths per minute. That number should be closer to 6. They breathe shallow, fast, from the chest, recruiting only the upper lobes of the lungs, never fully expanding the lower thirds where the majority of the alveoli are, where the richest capillary beds are, where most of the oxygen exchange happens. With each of those shallow, fast, chest-level breaths, they're doing several damaging things simultaneously. They're allowing CO2 to accumulate in lower lung tissue, causing partial alveolar collapse. They're keeping their autonomic nervous system tilted towards sympathetic activation, the stress state, which is directly immunosuppressive. They're reducing lymphatic circulation, which slows the physical movement of immune cells through your body. And they're subtly, chronically lowering blood oxygen saturation, which depletes the fuel supply of every immune cell that depends on mitochondrial energy to function. This isn't a minor inconvenience. Chronically dysregulated breathing has been linked in peer-reviewed literature to elevated cortisol, reduced natural killer cell activity, slower wound healing, impaired mucosal immunity, and a measurably higher rate of upper respiratory infection. You're not catching more colds because of bad luck. You're not catching more colds because of your immune system is fundamentally deficient. You're catching more colds because of the way you breathe. And that is a problem you can solve starting today with 0 cost and 4 minutes of your time. The science you were never taught. Before I walk you through the protocol, I want you to understand the mechanism, because when you understand why it works, you do it differently.
You do it with intention, you feel it working, and that changes everything about your consistency. So let me explain what a physiological sigh actually is at the biological level, because the name sounds technical, but the concept is one of the most elegant things in human physiology. Your lungs are not two simple bags that inflate and deflate. They are a tree-like structure of branching airways that terminate in hundreds of millions of tiny air sacs called alveoli. Each alveolus is surrounded by a network of capillaries, and it is across the thin membrane between the air sac and the capillary that oxygen and CO2 exchange happens. Oxygen moves from the air into your blood. Carbon dioxide moves from your blood into the air to be exhaled. This system works beautifully when the alveoli are fully inflated, but here's the problem. When you breathe shallow and fast, CO2 builds up in alveolar tissue faster than your exhales can clear it. And when CO2 concentration increases in a confined space, surface tension increases. The walls of the alveolus begin to stick together. The sac partially collapses. The membrane surface area available for gas exchange drops, and your blood gas ratios begin to drift. Your body has known about this problem for hundreds of millions of years. Its solution is the physiological sigh. A physiological sigh is a double inhale, a full, slow inhale through your nose, followed immediately by a short, sharp secondary inhale through the nose. That secondary sniff is not decorative. It serves a specific mechanical function. It generates enough additional pressure to reinflate the partially collapsed alveoli, popping them back open and restoring the full surface area for gas exchange. The extended exhale that follows then clears the accumulated CO2 in a single efficient flush. Blood gas ratios normalize within seconds. Autonomic arousal drops, and your downstream cascade of immune benefits begins. Your body does this automatically, once every few minutes when you're at rest. You've done it thousands of times in your life. You probably did it in the last hour. You just didn't know you were doing anything meaningful. What the research from Stanford discovered, and what has been replicated in multiple subsequent studies, is that doing this intentionally, repeatedly in a structured sequence amplifies these effects dramatically. Instead of a passive reset that happens by accident, you are creating an active, deliberate shift in your blood chemistry, your autonomic state, and your immune signaling environment. When you do 4 physiological sighs back to back, you're not just correcting a CO2 imbalance. You are sending a loud, clear chemical signal to every immune cell in your body that says the system is stable, resources are available, threats are being managed. And your immune army responds accordingly, activating surveillance, increasing cytokine coordination, boosting the production of antibodies that line your mucous membranes, and directing mitochondrial energy toward the cells that need it most. This is your body's own language. You are just finally learning to speak it. The 4-minute protocol. Let me walk you through the exact sequence right now. I want you to actually do this with me if you can, because experiencing it once is worth 100 explanations. Find a comfortable seated position, feet flat on the floor, hands resting on your knees or your thighs, spine tall but not rigid, eyes closed if that's comfortable for you, or soft gaze at the floor. We are going to do 4 minutes of intentional breathing, divided into 4 distinct phases. Each phase builds on the last. By the time we reach the end, your blood chemistry, your nervous system state, and your immune signaling environment will all be measurably different from where they are right now. Minute 1, the priming round. We begin with the physiological sigh itself. Take a full, slow inhale through your nose. Let your belly expand first. Feel it push outward against your waistband or your hands if you have them there. Then let your chest rise. Fill from the bottom up. Take your time. Inhale for about 5 counts. Now, without pausing, without exhaling, take one more short, sharp sniff through the nose. A quick top off, just a small burst of additional air to ensure those lower alveoli are fully expanded. Now, exhale, slowly through slightly pursed lips. Take your time. 6 counts, 8 counts, whatever feels natural. The exhale should be longer than the inhale. Let all the air go. Don't force it. Just let gravity and the natural elastic recoil of your lung tissue do the work. Empty the tank completely. That is 1 physiological sigh. Now do it again. Same sequence. Full inhale from the belly, short, sharp top-off sniff, long, slow, complete exhale. Do this 4 times total. Don't rush, don't force. The exhale in particular should feel almost like a slow release, like letting go of something you've been holding without realizing it. By the time you complete the 4th repetition, most people notice something happening. A slight warmth spreading through the chest, a softening in the muscles around the shoulders and jaw, a mental clarity that wasn't quite there before, like a fog is thinned. Some people feel a slight tingling in their hands or face, which is simply the result of improved peripheral circulation as your blood vessels dilate in response to the improved blood gas ratio. This is your body's autonomic nervous system moving. Right now, in real time, the balance of power is shifting from sympathetic activation, your fight-or-flight, cortisol-dominant immune suppressive state, toward parasympathetic restoration. Your vagal nerve is firing, your heart rate is slowing slightly, your digestive system is coming back online, and your immune cells are receiving a new set of instructions. Minute 2, the oxygenation phase. Now, we slow everything down and let the shift consolidate. For the next 100 seconds, breathe consciously but gently, in through the nose, out through the nose. No more double inhales, just a slow, steady, nasal diaphragmatic rhythm. In for 4 counts, hold for 1 beat at the top, exhale for 6 counts. This phase is about sustaining what you just created. Your CO2 levels are normalizing. Your blood pH, which had been subtly acidic from the CO2 accumulation, is stabilizing back toward its optimal range. Your vagal tone is increasing, meaning the parasympathetic signal is getting stronger and more consistent. Vagal tone is measured clinically through heart rate variability, the small, natural fluctuations in the time between heartbeats that indicate how flexibly your autonomic system is responding. Higher vagal tone is associated with better immune regulation, lower systemic inflammation, faster recovery from illness, and more robust stress resilience. Studies using heart rate variability monitoring show that this 60-second phase of conscious nasal breathing produces measurable improvements in vagal tone within a single session, not after weeks of practice, after one session. Feel the breath moving through your nostrils. Feel the slight coolness of the inhale, the slight warmth of the exhale. Feel your rib cage expanding three-dimensionally, not just forward and back, but side to side, even slightly into your lower back.
The lungs are bigger than most people realize, and most of that volume is in places they never access. Minute 3, the immune activation window. This is where the protocol gets extraordinary. This is the phase most breathing practices never include, and it's the one that takes everything we've built in the first 2 minutes and converts it directly into immune benefit. We are going to use box breathing, a 4-count rhythm that has been studied extensively in military and medical contexts for its ability to rapidly reduce cortisol and stabilize the autonomic nervous system. Inhale for 4 counts, hold at the top for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold at the bottom for 4 counts. That is one box. Do this continuously for 60 seconds. Here is what is happening biochemically during this phase. Your serum cortisol, the primary stress hormone and the primary immunosuppressant your body produces in response to perceived threat, is dropping, not over hours, in minutes. The sustained parasympathetic activation you've created over the first 2 minutes, combined with the rhythmic pressure changes of box breathing, is actively down-regulating the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. The cortisol tap is being turned down. At the same time, something equally important is happening on your mucosal surfaces of your body. Your respiratory tract, your nasal passages, your throat, your gut. All of these surfaces are lined with a protective coating called secretory immunoglobulin A, or SIGA. SIGA is your body's first line of immune defense, the antibody barrier that intercepts pathogens before they can penetrate the tissue and enter the bloodstream. And SIGA production is directly regulated by autonomic state. In high sympathetic activation, SIGA production drops. In parasympathetic restoration, it rises. Right now, as you complete this 3rd minute of intentional breathing, your body is producing more SIGA. It is literally coating your nose, your throat, and your gut, your 3 primary pathogen entry points, with a fresher, denser layer of immune protection while you breathe. 1 minute of box breathing following the first 2 phases of this protocol has been shown to produce a statistically significant reduction in salivary cortisol in healthy adults. Imagine what a daily practice of this, sustained over weeks, does to your baseline immune resilience. Minute 4, the anchor breath. We close with the anchor, and this final phase is as much about psychology as it is about physiology. Because one of the most powerful things you can do for your immune system is train your nervous system to associate a specific breath pattern with a specific internal state. Once that association is established, the breath itself becomes a trigger. 4 minutes becomes accessible in 40 seconds when you need it most. Take one final deep physiological sigh. Your double inhale, full breath, then the short, sharp top-off sniff, and then the longest, slowest exhale you can manage. 8 counts, 10 counts, 12 if you can. No force, just a long, patient, complete release. As the air leaves your body, I want you to feel the weight of your shoulders drop. Not force them down, just allow them to fall. Feel your jaw soften. Feel the muscles around your eyes release. Feel the subtle buzz of circulation in your hands and your face. This exhale is not just clearing air, it is a signal. It is your nervous system receiving confirmation that the cycle is complete, that the body is stable, the threat environment has been assessed and managed, and the immune system is now fully resourced, alert, and on guard. Breathe naturally for a moment. Notice where you are compared to where you started 4 minutes ago. That is the shift. That is what your immune system has been waiting for every morning for years. What the science actually shows.
I want to go deeper into the research now because this is not fringe science. This is not wellness content dressed up in clinical language. The mechanisms behind what you just experienced are documented, replicated, and increasingly well understood, and you deserve to know exactly what is happening inside you. Cytokine regulation and the inflammatory balance. Your immune system operates through a constant dialogue of chemical signals. Pro-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin-6, interleukin-1 beta, and tumor necrosis factor alpha drive the immune response. They call in the troops, raise the body temperature, trigger the fatigue and achiness that are the hallmarks of active infection. Anti-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin-10 and transforming growth factor beta bring the response down. They signal that the threat has been resolved and that it is time to repair and reset. In chronic sympathetic activation, the state most modern adults live in, that balance tips. Low-grade pro-inflammatory signaling becomes the baseline. The immune system is perpetually primed for a threat that never fully resolves. And in that state, two things happen. It is slower to mount a true response to actual pathogens because the signaling environment is already noisy, and it accumulates collateral tissue damage over time, contributing to the systemic inflammation that underlies dozens of chronic diseases. Controlled breathing protocols have been shown in multiple studies to shift this balance. Research from the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center found that participants who completed structured breathing interventions showed significant reductions in both circulating IL-6 and CRP, C-reactive protein, the most widely used clinical marker of systemic inflammation, after as few as 8 sessions. That is not a long-term study. That is 8 days. Lymphatic flow and immune surveillance. This is the mechanism most people have never heard of, and it may be the most practically significant one. Your lymphatic system is the highway your immune cells travel. Lymph fluid carries lymphocytes, the T cells and B cells and natural killer cells that form the core of your adaptive immune system, from their production sites in the bone marrow and thymus to the lymph nodes, the bloodstream, and ultimately to the tissues where threats are detected and neutralized. Unlike the cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system has no dedicated pump. It has no heart equivalent. It moves fluid through the body purely through 2 mechanisms: skeletal muscle contraction and respiratory pressure changes. Every time you take a deep, full diaphragmatic breath, you create a pressure gradient in your thoracic cavity, a difference in pressure between the chest and the abdomen that acts like a bellows on your lymphatic vessels, pulling fluid upward and forward through the lymphatic network. Shallow chest breathing creates a minimal pressure gradient. Deep diaphragmatic breathing creates a powerful one. What this means practically is that every deep breath you take is not just exchanging gas.
It is also pumping your immune system's circulatory network, moving your immune cells through the body faster, improving their ability to reach sites of infection or inflammation, and accelerating the clearance of cellular debris, dead pathogens, and inflammatory byproducts. 4 minutes of intentional breathing every morning is, among other things, a pump session for your lymphatic system. And for most people living predominantly sedentary lives, it may be the primary lymphatic pump activity they engage in all day. Mitochondrial function and immune cell energy. Natural killer cells, your immune system's most aggressive frontline defenders, are among the most metabolically demanding cells in the human body. To detect and destroy an infected cell or a cancer cell, a natural killer cell must form a precise synaptic contact, release targeted cytotoxic proteins, confirm the kill, and then disengage and move to the next target. This process requires sustained, high-level mitochondrial ATP production. When blood oxygen saturation drops, even modestly, even in the subclinical range that doesn't trigger any obvious symptoms, natural killer cell function is compromised. The kill efficiency drops. The speed of detection slows. The cells that are supposed to be your most aggressive immune defenders are running on a depleted battery. Improving blood oxygen saturation through intentional breathing is, in a very direct sense, recharging your immune army. And the improvement doesn't require heroic effort. It requires 4 minutes of doing what your body was designed to do. What this looks like over time:
I want to tell you about someone who came to me 8 months ago because I think this grounds the science in something real. He was an executive, 42 years old, getting sick 4, sometimes 5 times a year. Not dramatically, not hospitalization level sick, but the draining, 2-week, can't think clearly, falling behind at work kind of sick that compounds over a year into something significant. He had chronic brain fog through the afternoons. He was dragging from about 2 o'clock onward every day. He'd tried everything: clean eating, cold showers, an elaborate supplement protocol that was costing him somewhere north of $300 a month. He'd done the sleep tracking. He'd done the continuous glucose monitor. He'd worked with a nutritionist. He wasn't wrong to try any of those things, but none of them were addressing the root signal. When he came to me, I watched him breathe for about 3 minutes before I said anything. He was taking between 18 and 20 breaths per minute. All chest, no belly movement, breathing through his mouth about 40% of the time, and every single exhale was shorter than the inhale, which is physiologically backwards. The exhale is where the nervous system resets, and he was cutting it short every single time. We stopped the supplements, we started the breath. 4 minutes every morning, the sequence I just walked you through. That was the only intervention for the first 30 days. No changes to diet, no new protocols, just the breath before coffee, before the phone, before you check a single message or look at a single headline, every morning without exception. After 2 weeks, his afternoon energy pattern had already shifted. He wasn't fully over the 2 o'clock wall, but he was no longer falling off a cliff at that hour. He described it as the afternoon feeling flatter, less of a peak and crash, more of a steady plateau. After 4 weeks, his wife commented unprompted that he seemed calmer, less reactive to small frustrations, more present at dinner. He said he hadn't consciously changed anything about how he was showing up at home. The breath was doing it. After 8 weeks, he went in for routine blood work. His CRP, C-reactive protein, the primary clinical marker of systemic inflammation, had dropped from 3.8 to 1.1. His doctor, who had been tracking this number with some concern, asked what he had changed. He said, "My breathing." His doctor did not know what to do with that answer, but the number was real, the shift was real, and he hasn't had a significant illness in the 8 months since. Now, I am not telling you this is a cure. I'm not making medical claims, and I want to be explicit about that. What I am telling you is that this is real, it is accessible, and it is waiting for you the moment you decide to take it seriously. We take the breath, and when we take it with intention, with consistency, with the understanding of what we are actually doing, we grow the life. That is not a slogan, that is what the science says, and it is what 8 months of one man's morning practice proved. The mistakes that undermine everything. Before I send you off with the protocol, I want to address 3 things that will sabotage your results if you don't know about them. The first mistake is breathing through your mouth. Mouth breathing during the protocol or during any resting or sleeping state bypasses the nasal passages entirely, and with them a remarkable piece of immune engineering. Your nasal passages are lined with cilia and mucous membranes that filter, warm, and humidify incoming air before it reaches the lungs. They also produce nitric oxide, a molecule that has potent vasodilator and antiviral properties, and release it into the airstream with every nasal breath. Nasal breathing delivers nitric oxide directly to the lungs and the bloodstream. Mouth breathing delivers none of it. If you were doing this protocol through your mouth, you were leaving one of its most significant immune benefits on the table. The second mistake is skipping the exhale. The exhale is not the passive, unimportant half of the breath cycle. It is where the parasympathetic reset happens. The vagus nerve is most strongly stimulated on the exhale. Cortisol drops on the exhale. Lymphatic pressure changes are greatest on the exhale. If your exhales are short, rushed, or incomplete, you are doing the protocol at half power. Slow it down. Let it be long. Empty the tank. The third mistake is inconsistency. The protocol is not a rescue tool, though it functions as one in moments of acute stress. Its deepest immune benefits come from the cumulative signal it sends when practiced daily. Every morning that you sit down and take those 4 minutes, you are slightly recalibrating your autonomic baseline, nudging your nervous system a fraction of a degree toward parasympathetic tone. That fraction is invisible day to day. Over 30 days, it is a measurable shift. Over 90 days, it is a transformation. 4 minutes every morning before anything else. That is the only complexity here. Your next step. Here is what I want you to do right now, not tomorrow, right now. Open the Notes app on your phone and write down 3 words. Double inhale, long exhale. That is your anchor phrase. That is the thing you read tomorrow morning when your alarm goes off and your brain is not fully online and you need a 1-second reminder of what you're doing and why. Double inhale, long exhale. 4 times. Then the rest of the protocol. Tomorrow morning, before your coffee, before your phone, before you check a single message or look at a single headline, sit up at the edge of your bed, feet on the floor, spine straight, and do 4 physiological sighs.
That is your entire commitment for day 1. That is the starting line. If you want to go further, if you want the complete 12-week MindTake breathing protocol that builds progressively on everything we covered today, including specific sequences designed for travel days, high-stress work weeks, post-illness recovery phases, and the sleep optimization breathwork that has produced some of the most dramatic results I've seen in my practice, I've linked the full guide in the description below. It is built on the same peer-reviewed research we covered here. It is structured as a daily practice that grows with you, starting at 4 minutes and building to a 10-minute protocol over 12 weeks. And it compounds like an investment. The longer you stay consistent, the more your baseline shifts and the less effort each session requires to produce the same results. And if this video gave you something today, if it shifted something in how you see your own breath, your own body, your own capacity to influence your health, please share it with one person in your life who needs it. Not because it helps my reach, because most people are walking around with a depleted immune system and a tool they don't know they have. They are spending money they don't need to spend and wondering why they keep getting sick. Be the reason they find a better answer. You've been watching MindTake, and subscribe. We take the breath so we can grow the life. My name is Dr. Silas Kincaid. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, breathe well, because your immune system is listening to every single breath you take. Make sure it's hearing what you actually want it to hear.